Untap, upkeep. Welcome back to the channel if you've been here before, and if you haven't, then please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show that I have for you today. Would like to give a nice shout out to all those that have liked, shared, left me comments, subscribed. You all are amazing, wonderful, and I love you all very, very much. If it's your first time here, then hopefully you check out the other videos. Don't forget to subscribe, like, leave me some comments, share the content. Let's help this grow and become a little bit more in depth than just simple deck text. So today I would continue on with our series of budget decks I have been having fun doing where everything is at the time of build $1 or less. And it makes for really fun builds. It challenges the mind. I mean, anybody can throw cards together and make it, thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars, whatever the case is. Anybody can do that. It takes, in my opinion, somebody being able to really think outside the box, to have a deck built on such a restriction, if you will. And I feel like that actually helps promote, pardon me, it helps promote like more creativity in my mind. So I've been enjoying doing this, and I need to do a few more. We're gonna be probably another couple or so before I actually have to do a few more. But if that's the case, then hey, let me know what you would like to see me build as everything is $1 or less budget restriction, and let's figure out a way we can take the deck to do hopefully something janky, fun, or just downright nasty. So, with that and that horrible intro out of the way, let's dive right into today's commander. So we're gonna do Jenara or Jenara, Jenara. I think Jenara. Uh, Asura of War. She is a reprint in New Capenna, but she's originally from Shards of Alara. I remember her back when Shards of Alara first came out, and it was just great. Was it Alara or is it? It's Alara block. Let's see how close I am. Yep, Alara. Technically, Alara Reborn, which, if I remember correctly, was the third set because you had Shards of Alara, the Conflicts, and Alara Reborn. So she was from the third release, which back then uh, you had like 3 sets that were released within X amount of months, and it was all in that same little world. It was a lot better, in my opinion. Hopefully, they'll go back to it. But, anyways, let's dive into Jenara. So, she is a 3 mana, 1 green, 1 blue, and 1 white, 3/3 angel. Not very much. She has flying, and for 1 and a white, you can put a 1/1 counter on her, and that's really it. So I guess you could say the idea of the deck is we're just trying to keep things as pumping as we can for Jenara so we can hopefully kill with commander damage. Probably the best way that is going to be built, especially on a budget. And that's kind of what we did here. So let's dive in. Now, this was at the time, everything was $1 or less of the build. So if I go through here and see some things that may be a little bit more, maybe we'll change them out. Maybe we'll switch the printings or something and see if that helps. But for now, let's just dive in, shall we? So first up, we have the Adaptive Soar Singer. It's just a 3 mana 2/2 that can come out after our commander, preferably, because when it enters, target creature will get a +2/+2 until end of turn, or more importantly, we can proliferate. So proliferating is probably going to be the best option to help pump Jenara out as big and powerful as we possibly can, and that is the direction I went with for this build. We have Arbor Elf, the Elvish Mystic, Avacyn's Pilgrim to help keep things flowing with our mana, as well as a Line of War Elves, a Sakura Tribe Elder, or a Sakura Tribe Elder. I don't know what I was saying. And finally, a Rishkar Pima Renegade. He kind of goes really well with the deck because he allows us, when he enters the battlefield, to put a 1/1 counter on up to 2 creatures, and then each creature we control with a 1/1 counter on it will be able to tap and add a green mana. Not that we really want to tap our commander, we'd rather just have her turn sideways, but it's a nice option. Anchor Bloom, it can be sacrificed for just 1 mana, and it can destroy an artifact, destroy an enchantment, or more importantly, proliferate. Conclave Mentor, kind of a weaker budgety version of like Hardened Scales. So if one or more 1/1 counters would be put on a creature you control, that many +1 counters are put on that creature instead, and then whenever it dies, we gain life equal to its power. So ideally you want this out before we start putting counters on Jenara, because Jenara will be able to get all the counters essentially. So if the way that works is we pay 1 and a white to activate Jenara. She's going to get a 1/1 counter on her. And then with this out, it'll be an additional 1/1 counter. So she'll go from a 3/3 to a 5/5 with just 2 mana. So that's not a bad rate, if you ask me. Moving on, we have Copper Longlegs. It's just a nice reaching 1/3 spider that we can instant speed sacrifice it for 1 and a green mana to proliferate. Grateful Apparition. Whenever this deals combat damage to a player or a planeswalker, we can proliferate. It's not that great as a 1/1. We have a couple things we could do to make it a little bit bigger and, a little bit more menacing. I mean, even if it forces an opponent to block, I mean, it's just funny, I guess. The Forgotten Ancient, the Juice, the Beast. So if you haven't seen the Forgotten Ancient, it can usually get out of hand very quickly. Honestly, it eats a lot of kill spells pretty fast. And if you don't know why, let me tell you why. So it says whenever a player casts a spell, which includes you, you may put a 1/1 counter on the Forgotten Ancient. You don't have to. Not really sure why you wouldn't, but you don't have to. And then most importantly, at the beginning of your upkeep, you may move any number of 1/1 counters from the Ancient onto another creature. So if this came out pretty quick and we're building up counters, play our commander, and then if it survives all the way till the next turn, we can move all those counters onto Jenara and just turn it sideways, assuming everything works out the way we need it to. We also have the Flux Channeler, pardon me, that at the time of build was at budget. Obviously it is not, so we may see if there is a different printing. There is, right there. Boop. We broke the snoop. So we're back under budget now with this. Hooray! But anyways, it says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you get to proliferate. This means anything that is an artifact, a planeswalker, which we don't have in this build, enchantments, instant sorceries, anything that's not considered a creature will actually trigger this, and we're able to proliferate for our commander. But our commander's not the only thing we want to proliferate. We also have the Fathom Mage. So for 2, a blue and a green, we get a creature that's a 1/1 with Evolve. So whenever a 1/1 counter is put onto the Fathom Mage, you may draw a card. So if we play anything that's bigger than it, is how Evolve is going to trigger. So whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, if that creature has greater power or toughness than this creature, we can put a 1/1 counter on it. All we need is at least 1 counter, and we start proliferating away here, and we're good to go. Even if that doesn't work, for whatever reason, we have the Forgotten Ancient, and we only need to get 1 counter, and we can throw it on the mage, and we are good to go. The Azuri Stalker of Spears, a really fun commander. The professor did a build about him. Ironically, about the same time I was thinking about doing one, and then he did one. I was like, well, now I don't want to do one because the professor did it. Bad professor. Anyways, though, Professor's awesome. He's great. I love his content. But Azuri Stalker of Spheres for 2, a blue and a green. We can create a Phyrexian Elf Warrior that's a 3/3, which is not bad. But we really care about his abilities. So when he enters, we can pay 3. And if we do, we proliferate twice. And then whenever we proliferate, we're able to draw a card. So you can kind of see why him and the Fathom Mage are really big pieces in this deck. They allow us to draw some cards whenever they trigger or whenever they have counters doing their thing. So they're a pretty nice little draw engine. Guild Pact Informant, just another way like Grateful Variation to proliferate. All it has to do is deal combat damage to a player or planeswalker. Halotli's Raptor, whenever it enters, proliferate. Just another way to kind of keep the train going. But Zeal is a great card. I'm surprised it's still this cheap. I love throwing this card in anything that can have it because of what it actually does. I've gone over it a couple of times in a couple of different videos that have the capability to play this card. So whenever you're able to play this card, do it. I mean, its abilities are great. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. We're not in blue. And we really could worry about counter magic or kill spells. Even red has burn spells that can hit us. Somebody could fog the combat step. Now, this guy out can't do none of that. Not without it being like a creature or a permanent that's already on the battlefield. So that's a win to me. And then, of course, it fits really good in this deck, if you ask me. Whenever one or more creatures you control, each with power greater than its base power, deal combat damage to a player, we're able to draw a card. So, if this is out and Jenara already has at least a 1/1 counter on her, deal combat damage, we're going to draw a card. What's not to like about this? Lae'zel is kind of like a dual-edged sword budget poor man's version of like half a doubling season. So if you would put one or more counters on a creature or planeswalker you control, or on yourself, put that many +1 of each of those counters on that permanent or player instead. That includes if somebody were to hit you for infect damage and you started to accumulate poison, you would get double that essentially, or at least an additional one if you're fighting somebody with a Finn the Famebear deck. And it could add up. It could rack up. It could be a problem. Luminarch Aspirant is another really good creature for this deck. So at the beginning of combat on our turn, we're able to put a 1/1 counter on target creature we control. So that could be the Fathom Mage, it could be the Variation, Informant, and of course our commander itself. We can have the ability to spread this out a little bit and make some things a little bit harder, a little bit more spooky. Steelbird Champion, I really like this card for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's just cool. I guess it's the artwork. I don't know. It has Offspring, so for a total of 5 mana, 3 white white, we can make a 1/1 token copy version of this. It's just a 1/1 that has Vigilance, but then it says whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, we can put a 1/1 counter on this creature. So there is a good chance this could actually be some kind of an issue, some kind of threat for our opponents. Quasal Pride Mage. Since we're pretty much going to be turning like mainly only our commander sideways, we could play this and give our commander Exalted, which means as long as it's attacking alone, it will get a +1/+1 until end of turn. It also doesn't hurt that we could pay a single colorless mana to sack it to the graveyard. So yeet, away you go. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. I think it's a pretty nice build. This is from Modern Horizons 3, Metastatic Evangel. And I really thought this would be hilarious to throw into this deck. I haven't really tested this card per se, and I really kind of want to. I just haven't found a better home for it than something like this. But it reads, whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, proliferate. It's been a long day, guys. So that means in our, including Commander, 27 creature heavy deck, if this is out and we have anything 1/1 counters on it, we can play our creatures and start proliferating and getting our engine running, hopefully. Merfolk Skydiver. When it enters the battlefield, give it a 1/1 counter on target creature we control. It also has flying, so that's always a good thing to have. But for the better part to it is we could pay 3 a blue and a green and start proliferating at instant speed. We don't have to wait for it to untap or anything. I thought this would be a nice thing to add in here as well. This is Stoic Angel. So it's pretty much our commander plus an additional colorless mana for a flying vigilance 3/4 that says players can't untap more than one creature during their untap step. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. I know. I did that. I did that. I'm a bad person, but it's okay. You love me for it. Finally, writing out our creature package, we have the Thrumming Bird, which is just another one of those. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, we can proliferate. It's nothing special, it's nothing that great, but it does work very well with the theme and the concept I've designed here. Running a single board wipe in the sorcery section, which is Austere Command. Desert's Gambit can also proliferate and draw some cards. Preordain can let us scry and draw a card. And we have our typical ramp package, which we probably don't need as much with Rampant Growth, Pendomus Reach, Farseek, and Cultivate. Wear Down is a new card from Bloomborough I thought about trying out in this deck because it is pretty nice. So we can gift a card and we can get the following effects. So destroy target artifact or enchantment. So for 2 mana we blow something up. But if we gift a card, if a gift was promised, instead destroy artifacts and or enchantments. Pretty nice. Moving right along, let's look at our sorcery section. Looking at the deck, looking at the deck list. By the way, I'm thinking we might need to find a way to squeeze another board wipe or something in the deck, but we'll cross that bridge later. We have Bant Charm, which gives us 3 options: blow an artifact up, put something back onto the bottom of its owner's library, or straight up counter a spell. We only run 15 instances, so that's not bad. Beast Within could also blow up something, as well as Stroke of Midnight, Generous Gift. We are also running the Swords and Path to Exile to be able to exile something. Growth Spiral and Harrow will help us ramp a little bit more. Inspiring Call allows us to protect everything we control with a 1/1 counter on it. It will gain Indestructible, and we could draw that many cards. Long River's Pool, another card from Bloomborough that we can counter target spell if the gift was promised, instead counter target spell. So first mode is counter a creature, second mode is we're just countering whatever's coming our way, as well as a negate and fuel for the cause because it proliferates. We could pick a better counter magic spell, sure, but I like the fact that it proliferates, and this is kind of janky anyway. Experimental Augury will allow us to look at the top 3 cards, put one of them into our hand and the rest on the bottom of our library, and of course, proliferate. And then finally we have Broker's Confluence. So you get to choose 3, and we could choose the same mode more than once. We get to proliferate, target creature will phase out, or counter target activated and or triggered ability. So this is an instant that we can instant speed, pump our commander, we could get things out of the way, or we can just counter whatever spells trying to do something big and nasty to us. Our artifact package, as we keep rolling down, is pretty simple, pretty basic. There's nothing really to see here that kind of stands out, per se, not in my opinion. Just kind of basic stuff you would see. It would be fine to switch out the Wayfarer's Bauble for like a Swiftfoot Boots. I think that would actually benefit the deck quite a bit. I think at the time I didn't do that because it was definitely out of budget. Now it's not so bad out of budget, but that's something you can do. If you're building it without a budget restriction, hey, throw in Lightning Greaves. Moving on, let's get to our enchantment package. We run Wilderness Reclamation to be able to have our mana untap on our end step as soon as we are done doing our shenanigans. Stocking the Pantry is, in my opinion, kind of a sleeper card that not a lot of people really know or care to see, I guess. But with this being so 1/1 counter heavy, I thought it would be fun to try in this deck. So for 1 mana, you get an enchantment that says whenever you put 1 or more 1/1 counters on a creature you control, put a supply counter on the stocking the Pantry. And then for instant speed, you can pay 2 mana, remove a supply counter from it, and draw a card. I think that's pretty good, honestly, especially in something that's so 1/1 counter heavy. and even at a budget too. Simic Ascendancy, I mean, if you bought the Bloomborough deck, if you bought a Merfolk deck, I mean, you've seen this card. If at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 20 more growth counters on it, you win the game. And every time you have a creature get a 1/1 counter, this gets a growth counter, and you can even activate it to put a 1/1 counter on something. Dazzling Theater and Prop Room. So the Dazzling Theater would allow us to have our creatures being able to cast with the Convoke mechanic. And then the Prop Room, which is probably more common use of this card, is untap each creature you control, during each other player's untap step. So we're able to, for 3 mana, play this and start untapping our stuff during everybody's turn, and I think that's pretty nice. It's a pretty good option to have, if I'm going to be honest about that. Finally, we have something that Traxa players are probably going about. This is Broker's Ascendancy. So for Bant, which is green, blue, and white, we are going to play this enchantment, and then at the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control and a loyalty counter on each planeswalker you control. Excuse me. The planeswalker thing doesn't matter because obviously we don't run planeswalkers, but pretty cool to see that we have something that goes, oh, darling, you're already running all these 1/1 counters. How about I help you out a little bit? Yeah. So I think it'd be pretty cool to have that on the battlefield and just kind of get our train up and running, you know. Finally, our last enchantment is Bred for the Hunt. So whenever a creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it deals combat damage to a player, we may draw a card. So if any of our stuff has 1/1 counters on it and we're able to connect and deal some damage, with this on the battlefield, we can start refilling our hand and hopefully keep the game going in our direction. The land base is pretty common as to what you would expect to see in something that is budget friendly for the Bant color restriction. Nothing too crazy, nothing splashy. I mean, all the temples like here. I got a couple of the check lands here. We're a little sparse. We got several basics to be able to fetch and find. They're pretty standard in this. So Jaheira is a really fun commander, I think, and she could do a lot of good. Moving on down, though, we have a sideboard, which really needs to be moved to the considering, actually. But before I do that, let's take a look at some of the cards I have here. So for another $23, you can bump this up to like what, an $80 deck, and actually start really hurting some people. We have Branching Evolution, which of course doubles our 1/1 counters. Champion of Lambert, I'm not going to go over it again. If you want to know more about it, look at my other videos. It is a good card in my opinion. Exemplar of Light, when I saw this card first spoiled and released from Foundations, I was like, oh my, this is awesome. So whenever you gain life, you put a 1/1 counter on this creature. And then whenever you put one or more 1/1 counters on this creature, you get to draw a card. It only triggers once each turn. Like, come on, let's say make Ascendancy out or something like that. You could draw some cards here. I really like it. Finest Hour will give Exalted to any creature you control that is going to be attacking by itself. And then it says, whenever another creature you control... Excuse me. Pardon me. I don't know why. That just... yawns. Am I right? Anyways, so whenever a creature you control attacks alone, if it's the first combat phase of this turn, untap that creature. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase. So I really like that. I think it's a really fun card. It used to be a very powerful CEDH combo. What was his name? Rafiki. It's Rafik the Many. Rafik the Many plus this card was an absolute terror years ago in CDH. Man, did I just say years ago? Dang. But It's not so much now. It doesn't see a whole lot of play, which is why it's pretty cheap and budget friendly to throw into this deck. You could also run a Hardened Scales to uh, add an additional counter anytime we put 1/1 counters on it. Herald of Secret Streams is really fun here because creatures with 1/1 counters on them can't be blocked. Of course, there's Soul Ring, which wasn't in the original build because it's technically out of budget. Shalai, Voice of Plenty, allows us to protect all of our stuff and keep the 1/1 counter synergy going, but it puts it on each creature we control, not just one. Scoos here, not a bad option to ever have in anything that's X green, because you can always pay a green to eat something, and you can do this in instant speed. So you could instant speed, eat something that big scary demon, dragon, angel, whatever somebody was trying to reanimate. You just no, we're not playing that here. Oh, I'm real smart. There is the other half of Finest Hour with Rafik of the Many. So he also has Exalted. He's only a 3/3, but whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains double strike until end of turn. So you can see how he was such a menace back in the day. You don't really see a whole lot of Rafik the Many decks these days, and personally, I kind of think that's a shame. I think he's a really, really powerful commander, and a lot of people underestimate him, but maybe he'll come back at some point. Kami Whispered Hopes is going to be like another Hardened Scales effect, and then you can add X mana of any one color, where X is the Kami's power. Incubation Druid is just another mana dork. Sylvan Scavenging. So this enchantment from the new Foundation set says at the beginning of your end step, we get to choose one. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature we control, or create a 3/3 green raccoon creature token if you control a creature power 4 or greater. Pardon me, these fonts are getting to me. So that's not a bad thing to have here either. You could also run Voral, the Hunt of the Clad. So for a green and a blue, you could tap him and double the each kind of counter on target artifact, creature, and land. Could be relevant, could not. And finally, there's Zamon, the Paradox Sculptor, which says that the beginning of combat on your turn, put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures you control. And then she's got Voral's ability, so essentially. So for blue and a green, we could tap her, double the number of each kind of counter on up to 2 target creatures and or artifacts you control. So she has a lot of potential to do some pretty nasty things. But I actually want to do something real quick, because we said how much this deck is, but it also takes into consideration our sideboard as well, and that could actually knock the price of this deck down quite a bit, with all this being moved to a consider board, helping out our case for this being a really fun, kind of janky budget build. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, you're going to bring this to your LGS on Commander Night and just kick some teeth in, because that would be completely inaccurate and not very realistic, in my opinion, to give anybody that kind of false hope. But if you wanted to sit down with some friends and jam something that has enough synergy, it should be considered pretty strong, you could definitely build this and maybe do something there. Okay, so there we go. We moved all that junk to the considering board, and now our deck is really, really, really budget friendly at $35. Rounded up, call it 36 because it's $35.93. And that is going to be Jenara, I don't know. Jenara, the Asura of War. So, I think you could do a lot of fun with this deck. I think you have a lot of potential to expand and kind of mold it a little bit into something that you're really wanting to do. I think what makes this deck so fun to me is the fact it's kind of an obscure commander. You don't really see it these days very much. I mean, come on, when's the last time you even looked at this card? Let me know in the comments. When is the last time you actually looked at Jenara, Asura of War before? Right now. Right now, when is the last time? Can you name it? Let me know. So, to me, that's what makes this card fun in the first place is the fact that it's something kind of off the wall. And I like doing things that are off the wall. I don't like sticking to the same old thing that a lot of people do, which is why a lot of my decks are budget friendly, or if they've been ramped up, it's because of something wild and crazy I'm trying to do as well. So I will actually bring this show to a close. Let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments below. Do you like this deck? Is this something interesting? Is there a different way you would take it? Is there a couple of budget pieces that you think would be better swaps for some others in here? Let me know. And if you would actually build this deck, would you build it like this? Or are you going to go full evil and build it non-budget? I see you. Anyways, that'll do it for today, my ladies, gentlemen, children of all ages, people in general, who I cannot thank you enough for all the love and support you've shown me so far as I've begun this journey on this channel. Please, I'm asking you to continue to do this. So, like, share, subscribe, share, and ring that bell. Make the almighty YouTube algorithm happy. Deck list for this will be listed down below in the link. I've been your Buddha Dragon. Don't forget, rub that belly for mana, and may your games be filled with luck. Peace out.